and welcome to Kansas City Experience. I'm Vicky Diaz Camacho. Today's media landscape is evolving rapidly, and as your PBS station, we aim to meet you in the places you are most likely to go for your information and entertainment, whether on TV, radio, or online. In fact, right now I'm here in Studio B, where we are working on a new set for our Facebook Live discussions. Kansas Cityans are curious by nature, whether it's arts and music, news and public affairs, food and drink, or a little historical perspective. KCX is your monthly variety platter of stories designed to feed that inquisitive nature. And since folks can't be tuned in to all of the places all of the time, we want to bring together just a few of the greatest hits we have featured on KCPT, Flatland, and The Bridge that you may have missed. We just finished airing the new Ken Burns documentary, Country Music, so we are staying on that theme and kicking things off with a story from one of our Bridge in-studio performances by John McEuen about one of country music's most well-known legends. From our reporting series, American Graduate, we take a look at the highly in-demand field of trucking.
Having this CDL is great for helping people. I love to help people.
It seems like no great country album is complete without a song about beer or whiskey. From our digital magazine Flatland, we see how Ryan Mabey has revived a key part of Kansas City's beer and whiskey history.
So down these stairs here, we have kind of a secret, hidden little higher-end cocktail bar. Let's go check that out.
Whether it is in line or a square, country music and dancing have a long history together. We visit some locals who are keeping that tradition alive.
I know a lot of these people, get to meet new people, so it's just a nice time to get together and have fun.
Plus, Rex Hobart and David Cantwell dissect the classic Dolly Parton song, Coat of Many Colors.
My coat of many colors, my mama made for me. Made from the rags, but I wore it so proudly. Oh, we had no money, I was rich as I could be with my...
Now, here's John McEuen, who is with John Hart in Studio A.
You can play somewhere between Travis style and banjo notes like this. This was when Jimmy Ibbotson and I worked up Long Hard Road. It opened with the guitar and D tuning like this on the Dirt Band record. And he starts singing, you know, way back in my memory, there's a scene that I recall. I'm not going to try to sing it. It just gives a whole full sound. It's like a lot going on. Then the other people come in. Well, I think of it as this way too. I'm playing the guitar and some jerk starts singing, you know. Quiet, I'm playing. And no, it's fine. And that leads to, it led to coming up with songs and the tuning. Like this one, let's see. Okay, I don't know what the name of it is. Let's see. Thank you.
John McEuen is our guest. He's playing Friday night at the Folly, part of the Folly Bridge Americana Concert Series. He's got a new book, The Life I've Picked. He also has lots of great CDs, including Made in Brooklyn, and a whole series of CDs with string wizards in the title that are also really great and worth checking out. You know, Will the Circle Be Unbroken?
I don't think so. Oh, what?
Will the Circle Be Unbroken is such a it's like a seminal document in American music.
It's the Dark Side of the Moon of bluegrass. Really, it's always on an Amazon chart or somewhere, and people always reference it. It's really it's in the Library of Congress and the Grammy Hall of Fame.
You know, I'm sure that you are going to be talking about that at the Folly on Friday night, but I wondered if you could just talk about taking Maybelle Carter a gold record.
Well, that was really fun. One of the purposes to me of putting Circle album together was to pay homage to these people that have basically gave me a life in music. Merle Travis, Earl Scruggs, Maybelle Carter. In '65, I was listening to an album called Songs of the Famous Carter Family by Flatt and Scruggs. I listened to that every night for a year, seems like. And it was just magic music. And my life has been so lucky that, let me just skip over about 45 years. A couple years ago, my wife and I were trying to think of something to do. I was on the road, and I couldn't get home for 2 days and then fly out. You get there, you're tired. The next day, you got to get ready to leave. You know, I said, why don't you meet me somewhere? And I'm talking to John Carter Cash, the son of Johnny and June, and because I've been working with him. And he says, well, why don't you stay at Maybelle's house? I said, what? Well, Maybelle's house up in Hilton, Virginia. I said, you mean the house that they drove to Bristol, Tennessee in 1927 to start country music, recording for Ralph Peer? Yeah, that one. So, how lucky is that? It wasn't like an Airbnb. It was Maybelle Carter's house that she'd lived in 1927, and it looked, they had it all fixed up so it looked like it was about 1937. You know?
Yeah.
And so we spent a few days there.
So
And I don't know what your question was. You just made me think of it.
It's. But you lead to my next question beautifully. You not only stayed in that house, but you have also stayed in Johnny and Jen's New York City apartment.
Oh, come on. That's embarrassing. No, it's not. Well, Marty Stewart, I'd hire him for, Marty Stewart, I'd hire him back in the day for $50 a night to go out and back me up when I go do duo shows. Well, they were duo because of him. Because I just like to play. It's what I always wanted to do. It's the life I picked.
Right.
And one night I said, Marty, I mean, one time before we're going out, I can pay you $100 a night if you can get the Cash apartment in Central Park. Because right on the south end of Central Park, they had an apartment that they'd stay in every now and then. And he did. He asked him, and Cash said, oh, you boys have a good time up there, okay? Be good now. And I think I did what everybody here would have done.
Yeah.
Where I flipped the coin to see who got the bedroom. Marty didn't know that I knew how to flip a coin. Thank you, Magic Shop days. I got the bedroom. You'd use that if you had it in your arsenal.
Where can you go in 4 weeks, 6 weeks at the most, and make $70,000, $80,000 a year? I mean, a lot of these kids are graduating college and they're going into debt for $100,000 for college and working at Walmart or Home Depot. You're going to be delivering to Walmart and Home Depot. There's a high demand all across the nation for truck drivers. Right now, there's probably a need of about 300,000 drivers, and they say over the next couple of years, it's going to increase to about 500,000. You know, I don't want to train for anything that's not in demand. We have enough college courses and other courses that don't lead to jobs. I want to make sure that we're leading to guaranteed jobs. This is a great career option for kids coming fresh out of high school. It's an opportunity for them to get into a career a lot faster. Our program is 6 weeks, so we need to help kids have other opportunities if they're not going to college. Pretty much, it's not rocket science. You know, if you want to drive a truck, you can drive a truck. And you know, most of our graduates, they come out of here making about anywhere from $40,000 to $45,000 starting. Our second-year drivers are making anywhere from $75,000 to $80,000. So it's a very tangible, valid career.
My name's Akia. I drive a trash truck for Waste Management. I always wanted to be a truck driver. If you like to drive, if you like to travel, if you like to meet people, If you like to help people, having this CDL is great for helping people. I love to help people. People get their medicine, people get food, people get textiles, mail, without having a CDL, you wouldn't be able to help and do things like that for the community, for the world. When the opportunity was presented, I took it and I said, hey, I'm gonna do it. And I did it, and I'm still going. I plan on retiring and being a truck driver.
I see the trucking industry as being only growing and booming. It's just now creating a non-traditional workforce. So those that are coming home from prison that actually need opportunities and a second chance to get back on their feet, this is a great opportunity because most companies now are felon friendly. Even those that are young kids that are not going to college for 4 years, this gives them opportunity in 6 to 8 weeks to have a career and go in and actually know what they're doing.
My name is Ryan Mabey, and we are at the J. Rieger & Company Distillery in the old Heim bottling facility. I don't have a key yet. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. So if you're a guest and you're coming here for the first time, you'll be greeted right here at the front desk, and let's say you wanted to take a tour of the whole facility. It's gonna pretty much start over here on the right where we have about a 4,000 square foot historical display. That's my dog. That's Moose. This is a map of the West Bottoms back in 1895. This is the area where J. Rieger & Company was born back in 1887, and really kind of the birthplace of Kansas City. And then we even have a replica wagon. This is how not only J. Rieger & Company would have been delivered back around that time, but it also is how the Heim beer would have been delivered around Kansas City. This is an actual old case of Heim beer bottles. So this was dug up out of an old barn in Iowa. The label here says Kansas City Breweries Company. Kansas City Breweries Company was more or less a consolidation of multiple breweries in Kansas City. As Heim was growing, they merged with some other breweries to become a bigger entity, and that happened in 1905. Then Prohibition happened in 1919 and put them out of business, and so we know it falls somewhere in that window. And now we're going to the production floor. So right here, we're in the very center of the building, and this is where the Heim Brewery would have been doing all of their bottling back in the early 1900s, and then shipping the bottles right out the front North Dock onto refrigerated rail cars shipped around the country. This is where we distill bourbon and rye on a daily basis. We make our gin, vodka, the Kansas City whiskey, etc. So we've expanded significantly from our original setup in the warehouse next door. We still have our original still right here, 750-gallon Vendome that we affectionately refer to as Sherry. But in addition to that, we've now added this column still, 27-foot column still, which will help us expand our production about by 300%. So we'll be distilling about 3 times as much whiskey than we were over the last 4 or 5 years. In addition to that, we've increased the fermentation tanks from 800 gallons to up around 3,000 gallons. And we've also added a brand new 500-gallon custom designed still for the gin. So that still is brand new, and that will be used exclusively for gin production. I'd take you in there, but they're still doing a little bit of work. Here is our tasting room bar. So this is one of 3 bars here inside the building. This will be used every day at the end of every tour. So if people come in for a tour, they'll basically land here in this room. They'll taste through all of our products, be led on a tasting, and then after that, they'll be able to go through the gift shop and then upstairs to have a drink if they want to hang around. Did you go down the slide? Of course. So this is kind of one of the whimsical, fun things that we've added to the whole experience, is that we want to, kind of convey the message that, we take our products really seriously. We take the history really seriously, but we also don't want to take ourselves too seriously. We want to have fun with it. And I think the slide also kind of embraces the spirit of Electric Park and the amusement park that was just across the railroad tracks here. So this is a fun way for people to hang out, have a drink or two, and get down to the gift shop really quickly. So this here is Steve, Kansas City's finest muralist, and he's putting the finishing touches on the Monogram Lounge mural right here. You'll notice on the back bar we've got those draft towers. We've got 6 draft cocktails at any given moment. We also have Resurrected Heim beer. It's being produced by KC Beer Co. and it's only available here. It's our single beer that we pour on draft, and you can't get it anywhere else in Kansas City. We chose KC Beer Co. because Heim was a German family, and they were really known for their German lager. In fact, they won a number of awards back in the late 1800s, early 1900s for their German lager. And KC Beer Co. is known for making German-style beer, so we thought they were the perfect partner to recreate that for us. No matter where you are in the building, you can look over the top of the production, and it really kind of helps drive that point home that that's really the heart and soul of the business. It really gives you a perspective of the size and the scale, and from up here you can even see the open top fermenters and what's happening in there. It's just really, really, really beautiful. So down these stairs here we have kind of a secret, hidden little higher-end cocktail bar, kind of cozy and intimate. We call it the Hey Hey Club, which is a tribute to the 1930s jazz nightclub here in KC where Count Basie was made famous. So let's go check that out. You know, cozy, dimly lit, a little bit more meticulous attention to detail in the cocktail production. Just a really beautiful, comfortable room. Got a fireplace here, bookshelves. We'll have furniture throughout the middle here, like Chesterfield couches and coffee tables, and we'll have the ability to have like a little jazz trio up here in the corner to kind of pay tribute to the Hey Hey Club days. It's a labyrinth. It just keeps going and going. Just within the last few weeks, we've gone from 10 employees, which we've taken about 5 years to get to now having more than 60 employees. And so this is an employee gym that they will have access to, as well as locker rooms, showers. So we wanted to make sure that our employees are, they're well taken care of and lead a balanced life. Being that we're a distillery and we're really focused on cocktails, ice is a really important thing. And so we have this room here dedicated to ice cutting, juicing, all that stuff. So we've got a couple Kleinbell machines. So basically what this does is it produces 4 25-pound blocks. It takes about 24 hours, and when they're done, we'll pull them out. We'll have a bandsaw in here, cut them up into smaller chunks, and then carve them into 2x2 cubes for individual drinks. With the kind of the resurgence of the craft cocktail scene that we've seen over the last five or so years is trying to figure out how to serve that level of cocktail in larger environments. So we can serve large groups, 200, 300 people at a time. So in order to do that, we have to get innovative. And so we've actually built a 500 square foot walk-in dedicated to cocktails on tap. Each individual line, we run both carbon dioxide and nitrous to, or CO2 and N2O. And so we can switch the gases depending on the style of cocktail. It just makes it really user-friendly, really efficient, and really fast. Makes the ability to switch cocktails out when necessary really, really, really easy. So this is the old building that we've been operating out of for the last 5 years. What's going to happen in here, we've moved all of our production into the old Heim building. And in the middle here, we've built this really beautiful room that's going to be a hidden secret dining room in the middle of all the barrels. So we're going to surround this with barrels so that if you're walking in from the distillery, you won't know it's there. You'll just see barrels basically stacked everywhere. We're going to have the ability to store over 5,000 barrels here in this building. But if you kind of walk through the maze of barrels, you end up at the entrance to this room, which will have a big, beautiful table in the middle that will seat 16, and we'll be able to host private dinners, private cocktail parties, whiskey barrel sample tastings, all kinds of things like that. So it's going to be, I think this is going to be really, really fun and kind of an unexpected part of the experience. So we ran a separate independent HVAC just to that room so we can, moderate the temperature in there. But this building is not temperature controlled by design, because whiskey actually thrives in extreme temperatures. So, extreme swings from very, very cold to very, very hot, that's actually good for the aging of whiskey in barrel. All right, we're going back upstairs so that we can finish off the visit here the right way, and there's only one way to do that, and that's to go down the slide. All right, I'm doing it. It's the only way to leave.
When they come on back, sides past the ocean sides, extend. Girls trade.
It's still the best thing we ever did. It's a good activity. It's good for the mind. It keeps it going.
This was a first time that the club is Live Wires. They're a local Kansas City club. They wanted to do something a little different. This is the first time we've been in a barn, in essence, doing this. So it's kind of a unique flavor. A little more work to do, but a lot of people liked it. I've been square dance calling for 42 years now. Started dancing in '68, so it's 51 years of dancing. I know a lot of these people, get to meet new people, so it's just a nice time to get together and have fun. Well, it's just, these are the nicest people in the world, quite honestly. I always say to new dancers, there's no strangers in square dancing, just friends we haven't met yet.
As far as square dancers, I consider them our second family.
Country music, you have to think about, back in the 40s and 50s, a lot of dances took place in the rural area, out in the barns. That's where, so it had a lot of country music players. And back in the time when people they were looking for something to do, there's only 3 channels on TV. So I mean, and one income family, so husband would come home and the wife wanted to do something. So square dancing fit that need very well. And again, being in the rural area, country music was pretty much the standard for that. We're seeing, as you saw tonight, seeing a little influence of other music now. I have Jennifer Lopez, some Michael Jackson stuff I was using tonight.
All to the middle, let it come on back. Square these four, let's go.
The core group still kind of likes country western. The younger group kind of like to change the pace, different music. So kind of keep 2 different factions happy. Well, square dancing is going to remain. In my mind, it will change in factions the way we look at it now. Because right now, this is a club, and there's still people willing to be officers and do the work and so forth. But we're seeing more and more clubs they're dying out because nobody wants to step forward and be an officer. The newer clubs are going to be caller managed, which it was back in the 40s. Because the caller would set up the time, the place, and okay, we're having a barn dance or whatever at Joe's place, and they all show up. And in about the 40s, 50s, that's when they started building clubs to do all that preparing. And now I think we're going to go back to that where the caller is going to be responsible for it in the long run.
Back through the years, I go wandering once again. Back through the seasons of my youth, I recall a box of rags someone gave us. How my mama put the rags to use. There were rags of many colors.
Coat of Many Colors is probably the one I spent the most time on this project, and because it's such a well-written song, it's such a great song, and whenever I got over crying every time about it, I can't wait to have it all the time now.
Didn't have a coat, it was way down in the fall. Mom told the rags together, sewed every piece of love, and made my coat of many colors that I was so proud of.
It's simple story. And I mean, Dolly Parton is just a great songwriter.
Her family was very poor, and as the song says, it was getting into fall, it was getting cold, and so her mom made her a coat out of all these rags of different colors. And she was very proud of it.
My coat of many colors my mama made for me. Made from the rags, but I wore it so proudly.
And so she has this beautiful coat, and if it's, her mother's made it just for her, and if her mother loves her enough to do something so special for her, then she must be special too.
My band, we have one of her songs in our set anyway, so I was already, you know, I'm a fan, you know, and I grew up seeing her on like the Porter Wagner show and stuff, and so there's a familiarity with her. I don't know. I think sometimes she reminds me of my mom, you know, somehow.
Oh, we had no money. I was rich as I could be with my coat of many colors my mama made for me.
I think it really underscores, you know, someone like Dolly Parton's ambition. You know, she grew up dirt poor, but had dreams of getting out of there.
But I tried to make them understand, but they could not see. One is only rich, only if they choose. I'm poor if they choose me. Yeah, really.
I choose rich.
That's one of my favorite lines is near the end when she says, one is only poor, only if they choose to be. Well, Dolly, that's redundant. You have two onlys in there. What she's trying to, those onlys are there for emphasis. She's not trying to deny that she's poor. What she's trying to deny is that she is only poor. But she can choose to be more than that. She's not, her poverty does not define her.
Although we had no money, I was rich as I could be in my coat of many colors my mama made for me.